brought to you by the Franchise Show. I hope you're all doing well and you've had a good week in franchising. So where do we begin here? We like to let you know what Franchising Brand Stories is all about. And what the show is about is we are bringing the stories from the nation's favorite brands, and we're bringing what's behind those brands to an audience. It's easy to look at numbers and figures, but really you want to know the stories, and that's exactly what this is about. So we're going to be about half an hour today, and the show is separated out into 3 chapters. We start off in the present, and we then have a look at the past and where things began, and then we go into the future as well to see what's going to happen there. So the brand story we're going to hear today is Football Fun Factory with the lovely James Cutting. But before I hand things over to James, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the brand, and I've written this down, so I'm going to read that. Fun, fun, fun. The Football Fun Factory was created to provide an incredible childhood football experiences for boys and girls of all ages and abilities. Their mission is to use the nation's passion for football as a vehicle for child development. They believe the focus should not be simply on development and progression, but we should be focusing on fun. I think that's a great way of summarizing the company and what it's all about. So James, I'd like to start with chapter 1, because it's a good place to start. Welcome to the show, first of all. It's great to have you here and really looking forward to hearing your brand story. So could you tell me, what is Football Fun Factory and where are you now with the business?
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for the invite. Football Fun Factory is children's football coaching activities that we offer in the form of weekly training programs from 18 months old all the way through to 12 years old, boys and girls, all ages, all abilities. We also offer school holiday football camps in the school holidays, birthday parties and events as well. So that's what we offer. The focus, as the name suggests, is all about fun and enjoyment rather than development and progression. And in terms of where we are now, we are 4 years into our franchise journey, so quite early on. But despite that, we've had some fairly significant growth over that period. So we've got a network of over 80 franchisees across England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and also Republic of Ireland, and just in the process of launching our first franchise in Australia.
Wow, that's fantastic. Amazing. Thank you for that introduction. I will say as well, and I did put this in the notes, but you may notice that I'm not in my normal under the stairs area. I am today at the International Franchise Exhibition backstage area. And look, this is not a fake background. It's a real background. I am in a huge warehouse looking room, and big thanks to Simon Chicken for helping us organize that. Listen, that was a great introduction. Thanks so much, James. In case you've just joined us, we are talking with James Cutting from Football Fun Factory, and we're just about to hear really James's story going back into the past, and as we sort of enter chapter 2. If you're really enjoying what you're seeing here today, do scan the QR code that you can see on the top left there. That will take you to a page where you can register to attend for next week's episode. And that's with Diddy Dance, and the one forward to that one as well. So we're getting to this point now where we want to take you back now, and we're getting to chapter 2. And we want to take you back right to the beginning, James. Where and what happened to inspire you to create such a wonderful business?
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago now, but wasn't all that long ago in terms of number of years. So my background has always been, throughout my whole career really, has been football coaching. So I worked for a professional football club, worked for Cambridge United Football Club, and I was there for very, very, very close to 10 years. And at that point, decided to step into a role outside of football and begin building Football Fun Factory. So back then, I had spent 10 years working within youth development programs, running programs for gifted and talented children. Had seen some incredibly talented young children that were given amazing opportunities to be part of a talent program and try to become a professional football player, which is quite a tough thing to do. There's a stat that says less than 0.012% of all children that play football in England then go on to play in the Premier League, which is basically none of them. So if the focus for the majority is on trying to achieve a goal that is only achieved by the really small minority, then actually along that journey, what we have to do is make sure whatever somebody's motives for being involved in the game, we want to make sure that everyone is enjoying the journey. And within a professional football club environment and talent pathways and academies, then actually that wasn't always the case. So we saw some children that had wonderful experiences, but we also saw children that were taking part in football experiences at a very young age, where it's almost become a job at the age of 7 or 8 or 9 years old. You know, they're training 3 times a week, traveling all over the country, dedicating their young lives to playing football. So when I then left a professional football club environment and saw the benefits and drawbacks of what happens there for young children, and then the small number of children that actually make it through that journey, I wanted to do something a little bit different, where it said, rather than focus on the 0.012%, let's focus on the 99.9% who actually aren't going to be a professional footballer. And actually, from a business point of view, well, that's the mass market. That's everybody almost. So if we can create some programs for those children to just enjoy themselves. And in 2017, I started a 1-hour coaching session on my local village AstroTurf. I coached 15 children, and then I put on another session and I coached another 15 children, and then put on a school holiday program, and 50 children came along to that. And before I knew it, I turned it into a business for myself. So I was able to then leave the job that I'd taken outside of football, throw myself into running a one-man band coaching organization, which is what it was back then. And it wasn't until 2 years later that we then began to franchise. And I do that with my co-founder, a guy called Johnny Martin, who sat in the office next door to me. And he is the co-founder of the franchising company. Worked with him again at Cambridge United Football Club. And when I thought about franchising, I thought of Johnny, because he's a very, very talented football coach, but also very, very talented in business, very commercially minded, very entrepreneurial. So brought Johnny on board in 2019, and then that's when we began franchising at the worst possible time in September 2019.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. I mean, that's a fantastic story at the beginning of it, and particularly as you say, you know, you built the business around you being a coach. So as a franchisor, you know, you've got a full understanding of what it will be like, of course, to be a franchisee. A question I was going to ask you is why at that point did you choose franchising as your growth model? Was it because of your partner there, Johnny? And talking of Johnny, I think he is here.
I think he is. Yeah. So why franchising? The honest answer, well, two sides to it. Firstly, myself and Johnny are incredibly passionate, and everybody involved in the organization is incredibly passionate about giving as many children an opportunity to play football with a smile on their face as humanly possible. That's what we want to do. We want to bring football to everyone, football fun to everyone. So that first and foremost. Franchising is a good route to do that, because you can see quick growth and you can see mass expansion, and it's a great route for a business to grow. But then the main reason was because so many people told me that's what I should be doing. And the first person said to me, "What about franchising?" And I said, "What's franchising?" The second, third, fifth, sixth person said, "What about franchising?" At that point, you have to go onto Google and learn a little bit about it. By the time the 25th person had told me you should franchise Football Fun Factory, I was like, okay, there's enough people telling me that I should be doing this. I need to take it really seriously. So looked at it, sought advice, built a model, and it's then when Johnny and I sat down with that model, we saw what we could do from a business point of view, and then we saw what we could do from an impact point of view. And both of those things are the same. So children's activity franchises and providers, the number of smiles on faces or the number of the revenue figures, they're exactly the same. The more children that are running around happily with a big smile on their face, taking part in physical activity, the more pound notes in the bank and the more business success that you see. So it's exactly the same. So rather than talk about the profits or the revenue or the turnover or whatever it might be, we prefer to talk about how many children are we impacting, and we've got a big goal to make football fun for everyone across the whole of the United Kingdom and indeed
I like the
beyond.
pun as well there. Very good. I was going to use a few puns, but it is a good goal to have.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. No, that's brilliant. We've got a question here that I'd like to bring up from Simon, because I think it's a really relevant one. And Simon's put, what skills and experiences do franchisees need to succeed in your franchise? I think that's really interesting. You know, is it passion? You know, is it all sort of sports coaches, sporty type people? What sort of how would you answer that one, James?
Yeah, so we have a owner operator model. So that means that every single franchisee to date that's come on board with Football Fun Factory has been a football coach. What that does for us is it protects the quality of what we do. So it means that I'll give you an example. So tomorrow we will do two coaching observations, which is the final stage of our discovery phase. So those people have been for a couple of meetings to learn all about the opportunity. They've seen our business model. They've worked through that. So quite an extensive process they go through to get to this stage. But the final stage is to travel to us to see our programs in action and for us to see them in action. And what we do is that myself, Johnny, and our fellow director, Luke, is we personally sign off every single franchisee face to face and ensure they are of the required standard. So what that looks like in terms of skills and experience, they are an experienced football coach, not necessarily highly qualified, because qualifications in football doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right person for Football Fun Factory, but they are a qualified football coach with the necessary experience. And the main thing is they have the ability to engage and inspire children to help them fall in love with the game of football. And then beyond that, of course, they're also running a business. Whilst of course, you know, passionate football coaches are great, we need to make sure that they are equipped to then run a business, because there's no point being a fantastic coach if you turn up and there's no children at your session. So it's really important that they are the type of person that can follow the formula, that can follow the tried and tested marketing methods and roll them out to be successful with their franchise.
Great. No, that's a fantastic answer to that. I'm going to take you back a little bit there. You spoke of the model that you use. And I think, actually, I wanted to say about the fact that putting a smile on children's face, what a wonderful thing, and a business model to have, you know, is to have that as your goal, you know, and to enjoy the journey. It was another thing I picked up on. Fantastic. Really, really love that. But in terms of the model, how, once you'd chosen franchising, how did you build out that model, and what does it look like as a support structure for a franchisee?
Yeah, we grew really quickly at the outset. So I mentioned earlier the kind of the worst possible time to launch a franchise, just literally a matter of months before the pandemic struck, but actually proved to be the best thing for us, because we were then able to kind of stop, pause, and put everything in place that we needed and do. We always say we did 3 years work in in 6 months in that time, in terms of building the training systems, processes, and everything we needed, operations manuals, to really to make it a huge success. So in terms of the support structure we have now, looks very different to what we had back then. We actually have quite a unique model where we have a head office team. So I'm sat here in our head office in Cambridge. We have a small head office team. There's 6 of us. We're just about to recruit a 7th member of the team. But we have a tier of support within our franchise, in between the head office support and also then the franchisees themselves, which is actually provided by some of our highest performing franchisees. So I won't share all of our secrets, but we have some paid roles for our high performing franchisees that then give that one-to-one support. We've got somebody on tap for them to be able to make sure they've got a role model, really, to mentor and support and train them to make sure that everyone's successful. And what better person to give support to a growing franchise than someone that's been there and done it and is actively now still doing it. In some ways, those people are better to support than Johnny and I, because they are living and breathing it every single day.
A completely full way to run a business, to get kind of peer groups together to support one another that are doing it day in, day out. It's a great way of doing it. No, I love that. It was interesting. You said that it's mostly football coaches that come to you to be potential franchisees. Is there any opportunities for someone who isn't a football coach? Do you offer sort of a training? If someone's just an enthusiast, I suppose, would you be able to offer that to them, or is it really just those coaches you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, so at the moment, every single franchisee that's come on board is a football coach and has football coaching experience. We have put in place this is quite a recent development, came into play November last year, a management franchise opportunity, which is kind of making that transition now from owner-operator to management franchise, where it's different and where it really protects us in terms of our brand standards, the quality of delivery, and all those things that we're so proud of, is that those management franchisees are the football coaches that have taken on what we call the head coach franchise, and then they have then progressed into a management franchisee. So they're still football coaches. To be honest, I think that there's 2 things, really. One, there's enough football coaches for us to meet our ambitions and goals.
Yep.
We also know what we're looking for. We know exactly what we're looking for. We're not fishing. You're at the franchise exhibition. There'll be loads of people walking around over the next few days looking for a franchise. Actually, at Football Fun Factory, pretty much all of our 80 franchisees probably weren't looking for a franchise. They were actually looking for opportunities. And we led them to a franchise. And there's enough people that we can take on that journey to be as successful as we want to be.
Great.
And if that's the case, then why would we deviate from that? So never say never. But as it stands, everyone's a football coach.
Perfect. No, that's a great answer to that. There's a good question here from Simon, a really good one that I want to put up, and I think it's a really interesting one for people to try and find out. What does a typical day look like in the life of a Football Fun Factory franchisee? It's all the F's there, isn't it?
Yeah. So many F's in that question. So what's a day look like? Quite varied, as you can imagine. Obviously involves football coaching. So typically one of our franchisees will operate at least 3 evening coaching sessions throughout the week. And that's our Football Fun and Development Program. They'll operate a typically weekend TOTS Football Fun Program, which is from 18 months to 5 years old. But we do have an ever-growing number of midweek sessions with the modern world, the ways of working. Actually, that's opened up a real opportunity there. In the school holidays, it's Easter school holidays where we are at the moment, and we've got thousands of children running around taking part in our camps. So those are sort of day-long, sort of mirrors the school day, 9 to 3:30 camps. And then in and around that schedule, they then book in birthday parties and events. So they might have typically on a weekend, but could be midweek, birthday parties, events. There's a little bit of background noise your end. Hopefully everyone can still hear. So birthday parties and events that take place, and that's the schedule. Obviously, there's then a business to be operated around that. And one of the benefits as well is that the owner operator, the head coach, actually then takes care of the rest of the business as well. The administration, the marketing, the promotion, they quite literally do everything.
Great.
And in doing so, that protects the standards then of everything else. So the standards of communications, because they're not the parents that send their children along to our programs, they're not communicating with an administrator that's detached from the program. They're talking to the person that delivers the program. There's so much value and power in that. So yeah, all the typical things within the running of a business, marketing, administration, promotion, all those budgeting, all those kind of things.
Right.
But then also football coaching thrown in for good measure.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great answer to that question. We're getting sort of towards the sort of the back end of today's session. We've got about 10 more minutes left. I could talk to you for a long time, James. It's a really fascinating conversation. One thing that I did want to ask you is, you know, with your history and what's happened at work, you must have met some real characters and found some real life-changing stories. You know, is there any that particularly stick out for you?
Yeah. So our first 5 head coaches, as we call them, franchisees, were all of a very similar profile, because we had such a brilliant network of football coaches that we knew within the local area from our experience within football coaching locally, that we basically got in 4 or 5 of us that we already knew, and within a matter of weeks we had 5 or 6 franchisees that had onboarded once we started to roll out the franchise. Because we were all of a very similar profile, all came from a football coaching background. We were all UEFA qualified, so quite highly qualified football coaches. We'd all worked at professional football clubs before. What we actually didn't realise, we were maybe putting off some people of a different profile that would be just as successful. And a great example of that is a guy called Nathan. He is a grassroots football coach. He still is. He still does lots of volunteering with his grassroots football coaching. He's the chairman of his local grassroots club. He's coached every age group within the club. He's been involved in that for about 10 years. He lives in a little village called Littleport, and he is Mr. Littleport. He is the go-to football guy in Littleport. He came to us at one of our coaching events and he said, "Oh, if I had the experience, if I had the know-how, I would love to do this. If only I'd, got the experience that you guys have got and the qualifications you guys have got." He said, "Hold on a minute. You're more qualified to do this than us, because actually you've been doing this on a voluntary basis for 10 years. It's a community-focused business. You're the king of your community. Everyone knows who you are." And Nathan, having had doubts about himself coming into the franchise, 1 year later was named as our franchisee of the year at our annual conference.
Oh, that's amazing.
He's one of our top performing franchisees, and it's because he is a pillar of his local community. So many children that he's coached over the years wanted to be part of what he offers through the Football Fun Factory. Lots of those children still participate within their grassroots teams as well, and also then get some additional football with Nathan within FFF as well. So a great example. What's even better about Nathan is he was a builder as well as a football coach. He used to get up at 5 a.m. He used to go off to work before his kids woke up in the morning. He didn't see them. Sometimes get home late, and the kids would be in bed before he got to see them. And he probably didn't have the work-life balance that he has now. And to see someone go on to do something they absolutely love, earn loads more money doing it, and now have a better work-life balance where they have more family time, he's sort of winning on all fronts, really. So I think that's one of many stories I could tell about our franchisees.
That's brilliant. No, that's a perfect story, and a really, really good story of how franchising can really change people's lives. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. As I say, we could go on talking today because it's a really fascinating conversation. But we are now drawing towards the last sort of 5 minutes of the show, and we do want to talk about the future. So before we do that, if you have just joined us today, we're talking to the wonderful James Cutting from Football Fun Factory, and we've just heard his brand story. If you want to hear that, if you click the QR code that's showing on screen right now, that will take you to a replay of the episode, so you can go back and listen to that. So we want to sort of finish up the episode by talking about your plans for the future and exciting things that might be happening within your organization. Can you share a few of those with us as to what's coming up in the future?
Yeah, so probably three big things really. I think the first of those I touched on earlier, which is our management franchise. So we've got was it now 9? We've got 6 of our existing head coaches have now taken on the management franchise and are expanding their businesses by doing so. And we've got 3 more set to onboard literally 3 weeks' time. So really looking forward to that. So we've got the management franchise is a brand new thing within the organisation, and that's really starting to take off, and we're seeing the participation across all of our programs grow because of that. Another thing is kind of brand partnerships and strategic relationships that we have. One of which of those is with Center Parcs. So we are the football provider for Center Parcs. We go in and train their staff. We provide all of the equipment, the inflatable equipment that we use within our football sessions. There's actually an audit of all of the different activities provided by Center Parcs, of which there are hundreds, and the number one activity was Football Fun Factory. So that was a nice little marker in the sand as well. And on a daily basis, up and down the country, across all 6 UK and Ireland Center Parcs villages, there are Football Fun Factory activities taking place on a daily basis. Those are then signposted out to their local communities and their local franchise. So that's a great relationship for us. And we're actually we've actually developed another one of those that we haven't had sign off from the PR team to publish live yet. But on my LinkedIn page, we hope to be. I'm sure I'll be sharing that story probably within the next 7 days, if we can do so. So there's another similar kind of relationship that we're building. So there's brand partnerships like that are really exciting opportunities alongside the franchise model. And then I think the last thing is international. Now, of course, everyone likes the thought of expanding their brand internationally. There's an awful lot of hard work and effort and time that needs to go into that. And what we're doing at the moment is balancing our international ambitions with the opportunity in the United Kingdom, because there's so much opportunity to run at. We receive about 500 franchise inquiries a month at the moment. It's really, there's never been such a high level of interest in our franchise. So we'd be silly to turn our attention to kind of things that might tick a box in terms of satisfying our ego by launching a franchise on the other side of the world, but instead actually maybe just focus for now on making the biggest possible impact we can in the UK. So international is very much on the agenda, but making sure that we don't get distracted, I guess, from what we can achieve here in the UK.
That's fantastic. Great answer to that question as well. Well, we are now coming to an end for today. I just wanted to ask you, James, is there what's a good way of getting in touch with yourself, with Football Fun Factory, for anybody who wants to sort of pursue this opportunity or talk a bit further?
So we have a franchising page on our website. It's got lots of information.
The QR code right now is a link to that exact page. Look at that.
Great stuff. Very, very good. So yeah, so franchise with the FFF, top left of the screen. Look at that, class. So there's a franchising page on our website. If you submit an inquiry there, you'll receive an email communication from Luke Chadwick, and then he will send through some more information, a copy of our franchise prospectus, and the opportunity to set up an initial Zoom call. So yeah, anyone that's interested, is a passionate football coach, or indeed interested in knowing more about Football Fun Factory from any other aspect, then please do reach out and get in touch.
Perfect. That's a great way to finish. James, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you and to hear your brand story today. I look forward to following that and seeing where Football Fun Factory goes in the future. I also want to thank everybody who's been here today in the comments. It's been really great to have your support. Do check out the replay. We'll also be putting out snippets of the show in the coming weeks and all sorts of other lovely content. Next Thursday on Franchising Brand Stories, we have the lovely Anne-Marie Martin from Diddy Dance, and we're going to hear all about that. I hope she doesn't make me dance. That won't look good. And of course, join us on the franchise show as well next week, next Tuesday, 5:15 GMT. We are discussing, should franchising be regulated? It's going to cause a bit of a stir, this one. And that's with the wonderful Gordon Drakes. So looking forward to that. So until next time, thank you all for being here. Thank you, James, and see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you.